2016 was such a good year for music, so good in fact that there were so many albums that I really just couldn't even get to. I didn't even review them, I didn't really even talk about them. I mean, I might have mentioned them, but these are just albums that I kind of wanted to give a shout out to just because they didn't make the list. I didn't get to talk about them, I didn't get to review them, but I really think they need to be recognized as just being fantastic albums that were released last year. And there's just a lot that happened. Some of the albums I wasn't too comfortable talking about. Some of the albums I just really didn't have time to amidst everything that kind of happened. So these are just some albums that I figured I would mention because they really deserve it. So first off, we have Two Tongues with Two, their second album. And Two Tongues, if you don't know, is a side project of Say Anything's Max Bemis and Saves the Day's Chris Conley. And I loved their first album. It really kind of blended their two styles together. Even though their styles were similar, they still kind of had a little bit of differences to them that kind of blended together in that album. And I felt that they complemented each other very, very well. This album continues on that, and it's a rougher sounding album, and I think it's more a bit, I don't want to say experimental, but it kind of felt like they just went in there and kicked out an album, and in a very good way. It doesn't seem lazy or lackadaisical or anything like that. It feels like they definitely put a lot of effort into it. There's a lot of great songs on there, and again, I feel that their voices complement each other so well that they really just do work that good together on this album. So if you haven't heard it, definitely want to check that out. You have Miski with Puberty 2, which, again, another fantastic album. A lot of people seem to be picking up on Miski lately, and I think that's fantastic. She has such an amazing voice, and her songs are just very poetic and dark at times, which I very much enjoy. And the music itself is kind of sporadic and all over the place there. It's definitely kind of indie rock, but there's many different elements in there. There's she released a few videos off of this album, and it's, again, something I definitely very, very much enjoyed. You have the Descendants with their brand new album, which, again, I mean, they kind of brought things back. I don't want to say brought things back because they always did the same thing with the punk music, and I felt it was kind of a purified punk sound. It's not pop punk, it's not hardcore, it's just punk, and I think they did a really great job on this album continuing their sound. It doesn't seem like they've been off their game or anything like that. I really think that they did a great job with that. Another album was Three Doors Down, which I probably sound crazy talking about, but it actually surprised me because it really was actually a decent album right from the get-go, right from the first track, which kind of caught my attention. I was a bit surprised. It's still that kind of alternative dad rock, whatever you want to call it. It's radio friendly, but it's still got this catchiness to it and this bit of energy that I really kind of enjoyed and was actually surprised by. The only reason I wanted to talk about it was just because it caught me off guard. It's not like any of their other music that I'd heard before that got very, very tiresome over time and annoying and just not great. But this album isn't fantastic. I know I didn't love the album, but I just felt like it was deserving of some sort of recognition just because it did surprise me in that way, and I was surprised by how much I actually enjoyed that album when I was not expecting to enjoy anything from Three Doors Down. You also have Tiger Army released a new album in 2016, and they've definitely gotten a bit away from the punk side of psychobilly, and they've pushed more into kind of that bluegrass country style, and I've definitely enjoyed this album more than anything else. It's calmer than things that they've done in the past, but it's still got those very, very dark undertones. The songs themselves feel very old school in terms of their structure, and I really enjoyed that. Another album came out with Schoolboy Q's Blank Face, which I really loved. I mean, I loved Oxymoron. That was an album I was not expecting to enjoy, but I ended up loving it. This album's even better. It deals with some very, very dark subject matter. Very realistic, very gritty, and it's something I enjoy. The beats on there are fantastic. The features are great on that album. It's definitely something you should check out if you are a fan of rap. You had Sienvar with Stay Lost, which is an album I did actually review on my site as a written review. I just felt like I wanted to mention it again because it didn't quite make the cut for honorable mention or best album of the year, anything like that, but it was still a great album that I really much enjoyed. It's completely different from their EP. It's more psychedelic and experimental in a lot of ways. It feels like they kind of opened up a bit on that album compared to the EP, which felt like it's more constricted in a lot of ways. It's something I enjoyed. The other another album I want to talk about is 888 or 888, or I don't know how to pronounce it, whatever. It's the former members of Drop Dead Gorgeous and their new project. They released an EP called Decade, and I really was caught off guard with this one because it's so good. It's not Drop Dead Gorgeous. If you're expecting screaming and all that, this is not metalcore. It's more of a pop album than anything else, but it still has those rock elements to it. It's got that energy, it's got that moodiness to it, and it's really great. It's a short EP. I believe it's only 3 or 4 songs long, but it's so strong, and I can't wait to hear more from this band. I mean, I love Drop Dead Gorgeous. Their album In Vogue turned 10 last year, and I think this project, while so completely different from Drop Dead Gorgeous, is just a great showcase of their talent here. Another album that came out was the new Billy Talent album, which this album I wanted to talk about, but I wasn't too thrilled about it. I mean, I really mixed feelings about it. I like some of the songs on here. Some of them were just utterly boring, and some of them were bad. It's overall just an okay album, but it's the first album we got from them in a while, which I feel like is worthy of talking about at least. And I really didn't hear a lot of people talking about it. I mean, there was some build up to the release, but once it released, there wasn't much, and I think that may have to do with the actual quality of that album. But overall, I still liked it. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, but it wasn't great as an album. Another one I listened to was The Interrupters, their new album, and The Interrupters are a ska band, I believe out of Australia, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'm sure somebody will correct me on here. But it's pretty straightforward ska music. You know, it's got everything you'd expect. But I liked it. It was good. It doesn't stand out. It's kind of a little bit generic in that sense, but they still did a really good job with it. It's still an album I think is worthy of mentioning and worthy of talking about. So those are just some of the albums that I wanted to kind of talk about from 2016 that I didn't really get a chance to, just to throw some names out there, give you guys more music to check out and to listen to, let you know what's worthy of actually listening to. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video.